So, Route 66 is pretty cool, but in its heyday, it was pretty cool. It runs from Chicago, Illinois to Santa Monica, California, and is 2,448 miles long. Like I was saying, in its heyday, it was more like a fun drive to take. Heyday doesn't sound right. Golden era. Its golden era was a mix of spiritual journey, family trip, or just something to do. Pack up, get in the car, and go. Whatever your reason, you're going to see something amazing. From gorgeous views like Millennium Park, to the painted desert, to the icons like Old Joliet Prison. Maybe grab a bite to eat in front of the giant muffler man at Launching Pad Drive-In, or any other places along the way. Make sure to fill up at the Dixie Truckers Home or Ambler's Texaco, and if you planned it right, you just might be able to see the Merrimack Caverns before it gets too dark. But who am I kidding? Even if you get there late, you can just camp in La Jolla Natural Park and greet the sun before you start the day. So why does any of that matter? In 2018, I decided to start my year off with a bang by doing a road trip across America. And to this day, I consider it one of the best decisions I've ever made. My original motivation was that I loved to drive and I wanted an adventure. So I left San Diego January 4th, not sure what to expect. The first stop was Grand Canyon. I drove through the mountains in the middle of the night because I ended up leaving late. I 100% do not recommend doing that. Next morning, after getting a very stern warning about moose and moose mating season, I parked, then walked to one of the most amazing views I've ever been blessed to see. On the way out the park, I was glad that I decided to go through with it. It was a great start to my trip. As I was heading towards my next stop, I noticed how gorgeous everything around me was. The sign I finally saw shocked me. It's a white shield with Route 66. I'm on Route 66. The Route 66. That second, I added driving the entirety of it to my bucket list. I will admit that my original idea of Route 66 was that it was just a road. Of all things, the movie Cars changed that. The scenery was so beautiful that I had to look up the physical place and make plans to see this part of American culture. Did you know that on June 26, 1985, less than 6 months after I was born, Route 66 was officially decertified? You can't imagine how much that hurt. Did you know that it was called Main Street of America? Or that it got the name Mother Road from John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath? The fact that I could meet legends like Lucille Hammonds, who was so generous that she was known as the mother of the Mother Road, was devastating. I decided to find out why, and the results were less than awesome, so I had to look deeper. And became one of my, even though I understand why it happened, I will not like that it happened moments. You see, on June 29, 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956. While the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1944 was passed to build 40,000 miles of interstate across America, only 6,500 miles had actually been built by the time he took office. On a side note, during his time in the military, he was inspired by the efficiency of highways in 1919 and again during World War II. He used that as his focus and finally got the bill signed after 2 years of trying. What the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 did was expand it to 41,000 miles and allocate $25 billion with a B dollars, or $277,422,794,117.65 in 2023 to get it done. It took 10 years to complete, but it was every bit as efficient as the president could hope for. These highways were built for the destination. Route 66 is almost, but not quite the opposite. It kind of wanders through the Midwest on its way to California. While the modern interstate goes directly from big city to big city with a slight detour for the smaller ones along the way, the Mother Road was designed to connect people in more rural areas to larger cities specifically because they had no access to national roads. the design ended up being a lifeline to the people of the Midwest. It's estimated that more than 200,000 people used it to migrate to California during the Dust Bowl, a period of sandstorms that devastated the Midwest during the 1930s. Quoted directly from The Grapes of Wrath, 66 is the path of a people in flight, refugees from dust and shrinking land, from the thunder of tractors and the shrinking of ownership, from the desert's slow northward invasion, from the twisting winds that howl up out of Texas, from the floods that bring no richness to the land and steal what from the tributary side roads, from the wagon tracks and the rutted country roads, 66 is the mother road, the road of flight. It still is the symbol of the open road. Doesn't matter why. Just get in the car and go until you're ready to come back. If you're coming back. At its busiest, Route 66 was packed with travelers. During the Depression, it was expected because everyone was fleeing from the Dust Bowl. After World War II, it became an inconvenience. Route 66 is a two-lane highway for most of the way, and after the automotive boom, it couldn't handle the amount of traffic it was seeing. As new direct highways were being built almost overnight, less people took the time to drive down the traffic-filled and in some areas dangerous road. Less traffic meant local mom and pop shops had to shut down. Less businesses open meant that there was less reason to go. Finally, roads started breaking down and ghost towns started popping up. It wasn't anyone's fault, it just happened. There is hope though. Apparently more than 85% of the 2,448-mile road is still drivable. The first Route 66 Association started in 1987 and are now in all 8 of the states Route 66 passes through. In 1990, Missouri declared US 66 a state historic route, and more people have taken up the call to preserve it. In 1999, National Route 66 Preservation Bill was passed. In 2006, the movie Cars came out, and I, along with a lot of America, fell in love with Route 66. So as I drove along the Route 66, I planned my eventual trip down it. I knew that I would sleep at the Painted Desert Inn or something equally different. I would visit every single interesting thing that I saw. I paused. Living in Hawaii for a few years taught me how to just relax and take life as it comes. I decided that I would only do it when I could give myself enough time to enjoy it. Then I took all those expectations and threw them out the metaphorical window. Just focus on enjoying the trip you're on. That's the spirit of it. I decided to lean into it. Thought about how I wanted the trip to be, and then I threw those expectations out the metaphorical window too. I decided I would just treat the trip like the adventure it is. I chose my hotel that day when I stopped for gas. I just picked the first interesting one that I saw. It was a horrible idea. I won't say the name of the motel or the city that I stayed in, but I will say that I slept fully clothed with my shoes on and with the table wedged against the doorknob. I slept in a sleeping bag on the bed, and then I threw said sleeping bag in the trash as I was leaving. I admitted myself immediately, as safely as possible, treat the trip like the adventure it is. Everything after that was smooth sailing. Over the 3,686-mile journey, I laughed, I reflected, found peace in the drive, and had deep conversations with complete strangers. I reflected. I learned that I love audiobooks and podcasts. I learned that there is a point where you are so tired, you can make peace with your own mortality. I stayed in New Orleans for an extra 2 days because I was enjoying myself so much. After leaving, I rerouted and went to Florida for a week just to rest and see my family. That refreshed me for the last leg of the journey. And when the ride was over and I made it to my last stop, I felt like a different person. I was grateful for every part of the trip, even the terrifying one, because it gave me a lot of time to slow down and think. It was an awesome drive. Route 66 is on my list and will be until I get to go the whole way. It's gonna sound cliche, but after just driving part of it, I could see why it's the American symbol for the road trip. It made me slow down and appreciate the entire journey. I will be back, but next time it's gonna be a family affair.